of solitude that we often discover our true power. We become more resilient, more independent, and more aware of our own strengths and abilities. The absence of others can be the space we need to fully embrace who we are and what we are capable of. Your worth is not tied to whether people stay or leave. It is not dependent on the approval of others or on the fulfillment of someone else's expectations. The journey of self-worth is one of discovery and affirmation, and it is something that belongs entirely to you. The opinions and actions of others are outside of your control. What you can control is how you view yourself, how you treat yourself, and how you honor your own needs and desires. The people who leave your life, whether temporarily or permanently, are simply part of the ebb and flow of existence. They may have played an important role in your story, but they do not define the entirety of who you are. Their absence is not a reflection of your inadequacy, but rather an opportunity for you to step into a higher version of yourself. The lessons you've learned from them and from the experiences you shared will stay with you, and the growth that comes from their departure can be transformative. Over time, as you heal and rebuild, you'll come to see that the people who leave your life were never meant to stay forever. They were never meant to define you. You are your own definition. You are your own validation. And as you move forward, you will attract the people, experiences, and opportunities that resonate with the person you've become. The person who no longer needs to rely on others to feel whole or valuable. The key to moving forward after someone leaves is to remember that you are always enough just as you are. Your worth is inherent and does not depend on the presence or absence of others. You are capable of creating a life that is rich in love, joy, and fulfillment, no matter who walks away. The space left by those who leave can become the fertile ground for your growth, for your personal transformation, and for the new opportunities that await. Choosing yourself first is one of the most powerful acts of self-love you can offer yourself. It means putting your own needs, dreams, and well-being at the forefront of your life. Often we are conditioned to prioritize others, whether it's in relationships, careers, or our personal lives, believing that by giving and sacrificing for others, we will be fulfilled. But in truth, this kind of self-sacrifice often leads to burnout, resentment, and a sense of being lost or forgotten. When you make the choice to put yourself first, you reclaim your power, your peace, and your joy. The process of choosing yourself starts with recognizing that you deserve the same love, attention, and care that you give to others. Too often, we give ourselves the least amount of time or energy, assuming that our needs can wait or that they are less important than those of others. We might pour ourselves into relationships, jobs, or commitments, only to find that we are left feeling drained, unappreciated, or even invisible. The first step in choosing yourself is to acknowledge that you are just as worthy of love, rest, and care as anyone else. You are deserving of your own time and attention, and it is not selfish to make your own well-being a priority. In relationships, choosing yourself can be especially difficult. Many of us grow up learning that love requires sacrifice, that to be loved we must give and give without expecting anything in return. But this mindset can be harmful. Relationships thrive on mutual respect, care, and reciprocity. If you are constantly giving of yourself without receiving the same in return, you risk losing yourself in the process. By choosing yourself first, you create a healthy boundary, one where you honor your own needs and ensure that you are being treated with the same kindness and respect that you offer to others. Choosing yourself also means recognizing when a situation or relationship is no longer serving you. Sometimes we stay in situations that are toxic or draining because we feel a sense of obligation or fear of being alone. But choosing yourself means acknowledging when it's time to walk away from something that doesn't align with your values or contribute to your happiness. This decision is not always easy, but it is essential for your growth. By letting go of relationships, jobs, or situations that do not bring you joy or fulfillment, you make room for new, more aligned opportunities and connections. When you prioritize yourself, you honor your inner wisdom, which knows when it's time to release what no longer serves you. In your career or ambitions, choosing yourself means not settling for less than what you deserve. It means setting boundaries with others and advocating for your value. Too often, people stay in jobs or situations where they feel undervalued or unappreciated simply because they fear change or the unknown. But when you choose yourself, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, a fellow dreamer, there is a phenomenon that many of us experience. It's one that leaves us questioning our worth, wondering where we went wrong and wondering if we were ever enough. It's when someone walks away after rejecting you, only to return months or even years later. But today, I stand before you not to talk about rejection in the way society often paints it, but to redefine it, to understand it from a place of strength and clarity. You see, rejection is not a reflection of who you are. It is not an indictment of your worth, your beauty, or your heart. It is simply an indication that the timing, the circumstances, or the connection were not aligned. But let's talk about why after walking away, they sometimes come back. What does that mean for you? What does it say about you? When someone walks away, it might feel like the world has crumbled. But it is important to remember that rejection is not a final judgment on your value. Rejection is a shift in perspective, both theirs and yours. You see, sometimes it takes losing someone to truly realize their importance. But here's the thing, when they come back, it is not because they finally see your worth. It's because when you walk, you don't have to let them back in. You've come so far, learned so much, and grown so strong that you no longer need to seek validation from the outside. Your worth has already been recognized by the most important person in your life, you. So why do they come back? Because they realize what they walked away from. But your question should be, do you want to let them back in? Remember this. You are not defined by the ones who leave. You are defined by how you rise after they go. You are not meant to sit and wait for someone to see your worth. You are meant to go out there and show the world just how invaluable you truly are. They will come back, not because they understand you, but because they realize what they lost. And let me tell you something powerful. You are never meant to be anyone's second choice. When you start choosing yourself first, the right people will never need to leave. They will be there by your side, matching your energy, your vision, and your strength. So hold your head high. Let rejection be the catalyst for your greatest transformation. Walk into every room knowing that the only validation you need is your own. And if they come back, let them see the woman who doesn't need them to feel whole, because you already are. Rejection is a difficult emotion to confront. It stirs feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, and the haunting question, why wasn't I enough? Whether it's in the context of a relationship, a job opportunity, or a personal endeavor, rejection has a way of making us question our own value. But if we truly take the time to examine what rejection is, and more importantly, what it is not, we begin to understand something transformative. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth, but simply a shift in circumstances. It is a momentary misalignment of people, situations, and timing. When we face rejection, the immediate reaction is often one of pain. It feels personal, as though someone or something is telling us that we are not good enough. But let's step back for a moment. What if the situation has nothing to do with us, and everything to do with timing, readiness, or external factors outside of our control? What if rejection is simply a sign that the universe is guiding us towards something more aligned with who we are meant to become? Think of rejection as a pivot point in life. When we are rejected, we can either choose to internalize it and spiral into feelings of inadequacy, or we can take a different perspective and ask ourselves, what is this trying to teach me? What are the underlying reasons behind this rejection? Could it be that there are lessons or opportunities that are far more fitting for us than what we initially wanted or thought we needed? The truth is, rejection often forces us to look beyond the surface and examine the deeper layers of our identity. It calls upon us to reconnect with our inner selves, to reassess our desires, and to understand the aspects of our lives that may need adjustment. Rejection can be the wake-up call we need to recognize that what we thought we wanted wasn't necessarily what was best for us. Sometimes, we must be stripped of one possibility so that we can make space for something greater. It is essential to understand that rejection is not a statement of personal failure. It is simply a no for the moment, not a reflection of your value. For example, in relationships, when someone rejects you, it does not mean you are unworthy of love. It merely means that at that point in time, the connection wasn't meant to work, or the other person was not able to recognize your worth. Perhaps they were not ready for the type of love or partnership you had to offer. Or maybe their life path was taking them in a different direction. In these cases, rejection is an indication of a misalignment in timing, not in your value. This idea extends beyond just relationships. In careers, when we face rejection from a job or an opportunity, it can be disheartening. But instead of taking it personally, what if we saw it as the universe's way of telling us that this specific opportunity wasn't the one meant for us? It could be a signal to refine our skills, broaden our horizons, or even discover a completely different direction that suits our unique abilities and desires. There are countless stories of successful people who were rejected multiple times before finding their true path. Each rejection wasn't a statement of their incompetence, but rather an invitation to recalibrate and evolve. The world operates in cycles, and timing is an integral part of those cycles. Think about nature. The seasons change, plants bloom and wither, and new growth emerges when the conditions are right. Just like nature, we too are subject to the ebb and flow of timing. There may be moments in our lives when the stars are aligned and everything falls into place, but there are also moments when we are faced with rejection, which could simply mean that the timing is not right. Just as a plant needs the right amount of sunlight, water, and soil to grow, we too require specific conditions to flourish. Rejection is just a sign that the conditions aren't quite right yet, but that doesn't mean they won't be later. When we think of rejection in this light, we can begin to release some of the negative emotional baggage that often accompanies it. Rather than internalizing the rejection and allowing it to define us, we can start to see it as a message. Rejection doesn't have to be the end of the road. It can be a redirection, a gentle nudge to shift our focus, to look elsewhere, to try again from a new perspective. Rejection can be an invitation to dig deeper, to uncover hidden strengths or talents we didn't even realize we had, and to learn how to embrace the lessons that only rejection can teach us. One powerful way to transform the pain of rejection is to adopt the mindset that everything happens for a reason. This doesn't mean we shouldn't feel the pain or sadness when we face rejection. Those emotions are natural and human. But it does mean that we can choose to trust that there is a purpose behind the experience. Maybe the job you were rejected from would have kept you in a situation that wasn't fulfilling, and the universe is guiding you towards a more rewarding path. Maybe the person who rejected you wasn't ready for the kind of love and commitment you had to offer, and there is someone else in the world who will appreciate your heart in a way they could not. Trusting that rejection is not the final word helps us stay open to the endless possibilities that life presents. Rejection also creates space for growth. When we are rejected, we are faced with a choice: to stay where we are, nursing our wounds, or to rise up and try again. Often the most profound growth occurs in the aftermath of rejection. It forces us to confront our vulnerabilities, to work through our feelings of disappointment, and to eventually emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The lessons we learn from rejection, patience, perseverance, self-awareness, and humility, are the building blocks of our personal development. Rejection does not destroy us. It strengthens us. It sharpens our focus and helps us refine our vision of who we are and what we want in life. Let's also consider the idea that rejection could be the universe's way of protecting us. Maybe we don't see it in the moment, but sometimes what we think we want is not what we truly need. Rejection, in this sense, acts as a protective force, keeping us from pursuing paths or people that are not meant for us. It helps us avoid potential heartache, failure, or disappointment down the road. We may not always understand why things didn't work out, but with time, we often come to realize that it was for the best. Rejection, therefore, can be a form of self-preservation, ensuring that we are only led to opportunities and people who are in alignment with our highest good. The power of rejection lies in how we respond to it. If we choose to internalize rejection as a failure, we give it the power to define us. But if we choose to see it as a redirection, a momentary shift in circumstances, rather than a judgment on our worth, we open ourselves to new possibilities. Rejection is not a verdict on our value as individuals. It is simply a sign that something better is on the horizon waiting for us when the timing is right. It is not the end of the journey, but a crucial part of the process. When we release the notion that rejection means we are not enough, we free ourselves from the limiting belief that our worth is tied to external validation. The truth is that we are enough just as we are, and rejection, far from being an obstacle, can become a stepping stone, a catalyst for growth, transformation, and the discovery of new opportunities. It is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter, one that will unfold in its own time and in its own way. You are not defined by the people who leave your life. When someone walks away, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or any significant connection, it's easy to feel like a piece of you has been taken, like you've been abandoned or rejected in some way. But the truth is, your worth is not determined by anyone's presence or absence in your life. Your value is intrinsic, unshakable, and independent of external forces. The people who leave do not have the power to diminish you. They simply make space for the people and experiences that are meant to be part of your journey. When someone walks away, it may feel like a loss, but it can also be seen as an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. Rejection, abandonment, and change are inevitable parts of life, and they are often the catalysts that push us toward greater personal strength and clarity. At first, it may sting. You may question why they left or wonder what you did wrong. But with time, as you reflect and heal, you begin to realize that their departure is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It's a reflection of their needs, their path, or the circumstances in which they found themselves. It may have been about them, not you. And that's something important to remember. Their actions, however painful, are not. The truth is, people leave for various reasons that often have little to do with you. Sometimes it's a matter of timing. People grow apart because their lives or desires change. Other times it's because they aren't able to recognize your worth, and their inability to do so says more about their perception than about you. When someone exits your life, it may be an indication that they were not meant to walk alongside you on the path you are destined to follow. People come into your life for reasons, seasons, or lifetimes, and sometimes their purpose is to teach you lessons that will help you evolve into a stronger version of yourself. When we experience loss, it's easy to internalize it, to think that we somehow weren't enough or that we were lacking in some way. We start to question our worth, believing that if we had been better, smarter, kinder, or more giving, the outcome would have been different. But in reality, your worth was never contingent upon someone else's decision to stay or leave. Your inherent value remains the same, regardless of how others behave. You are whole and complete on your own. No one's actions can take away from who you are at your core. It is in these moments of abandonment or rejection that we are given an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, to rediscover who we are outside of the relationship or connection that has ended. Often we define ourselves through the lens of our relationships, our work, or our social status. But when someone leaves, it forces us to re-examine who we are without the what do we truly desire? What are our passions, our dreams, and our values? These are the questions that can arise when someone exits our life, and the answers often lead to deeper self-awareness and a renewed sense of purpose. The space created by someone leaving can also be a space for personal growth. When we are no longer tied to a situation, a relationship, or a person, we can focus on ourselves, on healing, on growing, on pursuing new opportunities. Loss can be an invitation to cultivate a stronger sense of self, to invest time and energy into the things that truly matter to us, and to develop a life that is fulfilling and authentic. It is in these moments, first, you refuse to accept less than what you are worth. You demand respect, acknowledgement, and the opportunity to grow. You recognize that your skills, talents, and time are valuable, and you are worthy of environments and opportunities that recognize and appreciate your contribution. Choosing yourself also means listening to your body and mind. It means taking the time to rest when you are tired, to nourish yourself when you are hungry, and to care for your mental and emotional health when you are overwhelmed. In our fast-paced world, we often push ourselves beyond our limits, believing that we have to keep going, keep achieving, and keep giving in order to be seen as successful or worthy. But in reality, this constant pushing leads to exhaustion, stress, and burnout. By choosing yourself, you acknowledge that your body and mind need time to recharge, to reflect, and to heal. You create space for self-care, for rest, and for quiet moments that allow you to reconnect with yourself. One of the most empowering aspects of choosing yourself first is the freedom that comes with it. When you prioritize your own needs and desires, you stop waiting for others to give you permission to live your life the way you want to. You stop relying on external validation and instead you validate yourself. This self-confidence builds confidence, self-respect, and a sense of inner peace. You no longer feel like you are chasing after approval or living for someone else's expectation. You live for yourself, and that is incredibly liberating. Choosing yourself also teaches you to trust your own instincts and decisions. When you constantly seek validation or approval from others, you often end up compromising your own desires or goals in order to meet someone else's needs or standards. But when you choose yourself, you honor your intuition in your decisions. You trust that you know what is best for you, and you make choices that align with your truth. Over time, this builds self-confidence and reinforces the belief that you are capable of navigating your own life with strength and clarity. Another important aspect of choosing yourself is that it strengthens your ability to create healthy, fulfilling relationships. When you choose yourself first, you stop seeking out relationships or connections that drain you or make you feel unworthy. You're more likely to attract people who respect your boundaries, who appreciate you for who you are, and who contribute to your happiness. By prioritizing yourself, you establish a sense of self-respect that others are drawn to. You become a magnet for people who value and appreciate you as you are, and who are willing to reciprocate the love and care you offer. In the long run, choosing yourself first doesn't just improve your own life, it improves the lives of those around you. When you are at peace with yourself, when you are full of energy, confidence, and self-love, you can offer the best version of yourself to others. You become a source of inspiration, a model of self-respect, and a person who contributes positively to the lives of those you care about. By nurturing yourself first, you create a solid foundation for your relationships, your work, and your personal happiness. When we face rejection, it often feels like a roadblock, something that halts our progress and makes us question our path. But here's a perspective shift. Growth doesn't happen when we stay in a place of comfort. Growth happens when we move forward even after being rejected. When we walk away from rejection, we step into a space of possibility, of learning, of evolution. The pain of rejection might be immediate, but it is through the process of moving forward that we find our true strength and capacity for growth. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that rejection means we've hit a dead end. It can make us feel as though we've done something wrong, as though we've missed an opportunity, or that we are no longer worthy of what we sought. But the truth is, rejection doesn't always signify failure. In fact, it is in these moments that we are faced with rejection that we are given the chance to evolve in ways we may not have anticipated. Rejection creates the space necessary for us to reflect, learn, and take the necessary steps to become better versions of ourselves. Think about the moments in your life when you faced rejection. Perhaps you didn't get the job you wanted, or a relationship didn't work out, or someone you cared about turned away from you. In the moment, it's easy to think that rejection means we're not good enough. But what if rejection is not a reflection of your worth, but instead a signal to grow? What if it's the universe's way of telling you that the path you are on is not the one you're meant to follow, and there is a different direction waiting for you? The truth is, we rarely see the bigger picture when we're in the midst of rejection. In these moments, it's hard to trust that there is a grander plan unfolding. But as we reflect on our experiences and grow from them, we realize that rejection can teach us invaluable lessons. It forces us to look inward and understand what went wrong, why we were affected by it, and what we can do differently next time. The pain of rejection doesn't last forever. With time, we develop resilience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of who we are and what we need. We begin to understand that not every opportunity, relationship, or path is meant for us, and that's okay. Rejection opens up the space for us to reassess our goals. It gives us the opportunity to take a step back and ask ourselves, is this truly what I want? We may realize that the job or the person we thought we wanted isn't actually in alignment with our deeper desires. Sometimes it takes rejection for us to recognize that what we were chasing was not in line with our true potential. Rejection creates a pause, an opportunity to reflect and pivot. and it allows us to set new goals that are more authentic to who we are. It also pushes us to become more creative, more innovative, and more resourceful. When we're faced with rejection, we often have to think outside the box. We are forced to adapt and explore new ways of achieving our goals. Rather than giving up, rejection teaches us the value of perseverance. It reminds us that success isn't always linear, and sometimes the best opportunities are found after several attempts, after multiple rejections, and after the courage to try again. Rejection often sharpens our problem-solving skills and our ability to adapt to challenges. It teaches us that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey to success. One of the most significant aspects of growth after rejection is the way it builds our emotional resilience. Every time we face rejection and continue to move forward, we become stronger emotionally. We learn how to handle disappointment, how to bounce back from setbacks, and how to trust ourselves even in the face of challenges. It's like exercising a muscle. The more we face, the stronger we become. With each rejection, we become more attuned to our emotions and better equipped to deal with difficult situations in the future. Rejection also teaches us the importance of self-compassion. When we face rejection, we often become our harshest critics. We blame ourselves, we dwell on our shortcomings, and we let the experience define us in negative ways. But growth happens when we choose to be kind to ourselves. Instead of berating ourselves, we can ask ourselves what we've learned from the experience. We can recognize our own value and acknowledge that rejection is not an end, but simply a part of the process. Another powerful outcome of rejection is that it helps us set boundaries. It forces us to recognize what we truly deserve and to walk away from situations that are not in alignment with our values. Rejection can be a catalyst for redefining our standards and ensuring that we don't settle for less than we are worth. When we face rejection, it teaches us to respect ourselves enough to walk away from anything that doesn't serve our highest good. It helps us realize that we are worthy of opportunities, relationships, and experiences that uplift us, and we no longer need to chase after things that aren't in harmony with our true selves. Rejection is a part of life that, while painful in the moment, offers profound opportunities for growth. It's not something to fear or avoid, but something to embrace as part of the process of becoming who we are meant to be. Each time we face rejection, we are given the chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more aligned with our authentic selves. We are given the chance to recalibrate, to reflect, and to move forward with more clarity and purpose. When we walk away from rejection, we don't just move away from disappointment. We move toward a future that is more in tune with who we are and what we truly want. And that is where the real growth happens. When someone returns after rejecting you, it's easy to feel a sense of validation, as if their return somehow affirms your worth. But it's important to understand that their return is not necessarily a reflection of your value. Instead, it speaks more to the transformation you've undergone, the growth you've experienced, and the way you now present yourself to the world. What they are drawn to is the new version of you, someone who has learned to walk away from the past and embrace their own strength. Before rejection, we often find ourselves seeking external validation. We are eager to please, to gain approval, to win affection, or to hold on to connections that don't truly serve us. When someone walks away, it can feel like a deep loss, as though we are somehow less because they didn't see our worth. But what happens when they return after rejecting you is that they are not witnessing the same person they turned away from. They're now facing someone who has learned to love themselves, someone who has embraced their own power, and someone who no longer feels the need to chase after validation from others. This process of growth often comes from the pain of rejection. When we are initially rejected, we can find ourselves questioning everything about ourselves, our worth, our desires, and our place in the world. But as we navigate this pain and work through our emotions, we realize that our worth was never dependent on anyone else's recognition or approval. Over time, we start to see our own strength, our value, and our unique qualities that make us who we are. Quincy, and it is this inner transformation that others begin to notice when they come back into our lives. They see someone who is no longer emotionally dependent on their approval, and this newfound self-sufficiency is magnetic. The person who walks away might have had reasons for doing so: timing, emotional unavailability, fear, or even the simple realization that they weren't ready for what you had to offer. But when they return, they are seeing you from a completely different lens. They see someone who has weathered the storm of rejection, someone who has rebuilt themselves, and someone who has learned to stand tall in their own worth. What they didn't realize at the time of rejection is that your value was never dependent on their affection or attention. And now, after you've moved forward, they see that. However, it's crucial to recognize that their return should not be the defining moment of your worth. Their return is not a reflection of how valuable you are. It is a reminder that when you choose yourself first, when you work on your own growth, the right people will recognize you at the right time. They might come back because they see the changes in you, or because they now recognize what they once took for granted. But your value has never been tied to their recognition. You do not need their approval to validate who you are. Your self-worth comes from within and should never be contingent upon the return of someone who once walked away. It's important to remember that the person who rejected you initially wasn't able to see the fullness of who you were at that time. Maybe they weren't ready for the kind of love or relationship you were offering. Perhaps their life circumstances weren't in alignment with yours, or maybe they simply didn't understand the depth of your connection. But as time passes and you continue to grow, the version of you they now encounter is stronger, more self-aware, and more aligned with your own desires and goals. They might return because they've realized that they missed something that only now, after seeing your transformation, they recognize as irreplaceable. In this moment, however, it is vital to ask yourself, do I want them back? Their return is a reflection of their journey and growth, not a reflection of your own worth. You are no longer the person who needs validation from them to feel whole. You are no longer waiting for someone to affirm your worth or to make you feel loved. Instead, you have learned to embrace the love within yourself, to give yourself the care, attention, and respect you once sought from others. If they return, you now have the power to decide whether they truly align with the person you have become and whether they are worthy of the energy and love you have to offer. It's also important to remember that not all returns are worth entertaining. While they may come back, it doesn't automatically mean they have changed or that the situation is now right. The changes you've undergone may not align with the person they are now. In fact, you may find that in your journey of growth, you no longer need or want what they once offered. Sometimes when we grow, we outgrow the relationships, connections, and situations that we once thought we couldn't live without. It's essential to be discerning, to trust that your growth has led you to a place where you don't need to settle for anything less than what is in alignment with who you are now. Their return is a reminder that your journey of self-discovery and self-love is not dependent on anyone else. You have the power to shape your life, to set boundaries, and to choose who you welcome back into your space. Their return should not be the moment where you seek validation, but rather a reminder that when you focus on yourself, the right people will gravitate toward you, not because they see your value now, but because you have always known it. They are simply catching up to the person you have become. The key lesson in all of this is that when we stop seeking validation externally and begin to validate ourselves, we open up the possibility for genuine connections. When you embrace your own worth and stop allowing others to define your value, you free yourself from the need for external affirmation. You stop relying on others' approval to feel whole. And in doing so, you become more magnetic to the people who truly resonate with the person you've become.